So I liked Superman, but then I didn't like Superman. But then I did like Superman. We're going to talk about it.
Quit messing around.
I'm not messing around. I'm doing important stuff.
Hey guys, so I just recently saw Superman 2025. And we can't call it Superman the movie, but either way, I've actually seen this movie twice now. I saw it in the theaters and at home in a unconventional way that maybe some would consider illegal, but we're not going to talk about that. Either way, I wanted to see it twice so I can really get my thoughts together about how I felt about the movie. And with doing so, we're gonna go full spoiler review with this particular review. So I am gonna talk about plot points and things that happen in movies. I don't want to hear people say that, hey, you spoiled it. You should have gave me a notification. There's your notification right now. It is a spoiler review. And if this is the first time that you're on the channel, when we do these particular reviews, we like to break them up into two sections: the goods and the bads of a particular movie. That way it doesn't feel like we're kind of piling on or maybe glazing over a film.
He glazing.
A little bit too much either way. You can kind of take what we liked and what we didn't like in hand and make your own decision about if you like the movie or if you want to go see it yourself. So with that being said, we're going to start with the goods of Superman 2025. Now, the goods I want to start off with is the fact that the cast, I think, was really, really good. They did a good job on the cast, especially David Cornsweet as Superman. He did such a great job. I was expecting, if we're going to use a Batman as a Batman terminology, where Michael Keaton for me as a kid was my Batman. And when George Clooney came around, he ruined Batman for a little while until Christian Bale came along. Well, in this situation, I was really high on Henry Cavill. Hashtag Henry Cavill for life as Superman. But that being said, we didn't go through a George Clooney phase. David Cornsweet is a good replacement to Henry Cavill. Not perfect, but a good replacement to Henry Cavill. I think he does great as a Boy Scout in the character. I think that he brought a little bit more life to the character, and he wasn't so serious, because I know the Snyderverse was kind of dark and gritty, and that wasn't Henry Cavill's fault. But this particular version of it was really kind of lighthearted, and I really, really liked it. He gave us the fish out of water aspect. He gave us what it's like to have all of that pressure on you. I think he just did a great job with it. Even though seeing the early set picks, I was kind of down on him. I was very happy and refreshed to see the great job that he did as being Superman. Other people that I liked in the role, I actually did like Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. Look, coming off of Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor, the bar was super, super low. So I'm not going to say that Nicholas Hoult did an amazing job as Lex Luthor, but he was definitely better than Jesse Eisenberg. So much better than Jesse Eisenberg. But he had some material that he can only do the best he could with. And I think he did great. I think him portraying his character as being brains versus brawn was really, really good. We're going to talk about some other of his motivations when we get to the bads. But I really, really like that he was really trying to just be smarter than Superman and defeat Superman with his wits. And I think Nicholas Hoult did a great job with that. I think Jesse Eisenberg really ruined Lex Luthor for me. And to be honest, I know we have a problem saying his name. Kevin Spacey did a great job as Lex Luthor. If we don't go back to Gene Hackman. That's the only time we're going to say this. Other people that I liked in this movie was Edie Gaethje. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing this particular name. Sir, you did a great job as Mr. Terrific. I don't even know who Mr. Terrific is, but Mr. Terrific is now somebody I had to look up and kind of learn more about. I even have a freaking jacket of him now. I want to thank you, Ruben, for getting me the jacket. I even have a jacket of him now, which is definitely who I'm going to be for Halloween. I think he did a great job kind of being the straight man for this particular film, because sometimes this movie was a little bit comic-y. And his straight man aspect to it actually was funny in a straight man kind of way, but also too kind of grounded the film a little bit more, even though it was very sciencey when he was there. Other people that I liked in this film was Nathan Fillion, since we're sticking with cast. Look, not the biggest Guy Gardner fan as far as my Lanterns. It's definitely Hal Jordan. I will definitely say Jon Stewart is my next Green Lantern. And maybe it's a toss-up between Guy Gardner and Kyle Rayner. But with that being said, if I'm not going to go onto the other course, he did a good job as far as what I've always expected Guy Gardner to be, kind of an a-hole. He did a great job playing this role. He was kind of like a comic relief in a sense. but kind of a jerky comic relief. And Nathan Fillion gave a good job where I don't know how far we're gonna go with Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, but if they bring him back again, I would be okay with it. I would like Jon Stewart, but I would be okay if they bring back Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner. I think he did a great job for the time that he was given, and he didn't get a lot of screen time, but when he did, it was kind of impactful when he was on screen. Rachel Brosnan playing Lois. Now, I think that was great because I really wasn't a big fan of the Amy Adams Lois from Man of Steel. I think Rachel Brosnan did enough and actually came off as a reporter, especially the interview that she had with David Cornsweet. I think they played on that from Superman 1 with Lois, and they actually real world it and how a real reporter would be asking Superman questions, and are a good look at what Superman and how he does the things that he does, and how people would actually look at it. I think it was like hashtag super shit. But with that being said, I love that aspect, and she kind of got out of the way. A lot of times I didn't like what Amy Adams, she was always in the way. So this time Lois was Lois, and she did what she needed to do and get out the way. Other things I liked about this movie, or the goods about this movie, is the action scenes. Look, the fight scenes were great. Um, he gave us a kaiju, even though the setup to the kaiju was kind of dumb. We'll talk about it in the best. Was kind of bad, but the fight scene was really really great. Seeing him in action, saving people, that's what we really wanted out of a Superman. His fight scenes with the Engineer and Ultraman. That's literally what we want from a Superman film, and I think they did a good job with those action scenes, from the early action scenes all the way down to the ending action scenes. Even the Mr. Terrific action scene. It was like they did a great job with these action scenes. Some kind of felt cartoonish, which would have been some of the reviews on this, is that it felt like a Saturday morning cartoon. But if you just look at them in the whole of action scenes, I think they were really, really great. Other things that I liked about this film, and I guess we're not going to treat it as a cast member, is Crypto, man. Crypto, I thought was going to be a stupid idea for them to add it to him, and I'm one of those people where Crypto isn't this particular breed of dog and get the right breed of dog, but Crypto, I think they did a great job in just making Crypto a dog with superpowers. And I think that works well because we've had stuff like The Rock in the Super Pets animation movie and in the comics where it's super dog, where Crypto kind of has a personality, and it's like this one was just a dog who just happened to have superpowers. So it did a lot of dog things, and I was like, that was really cool. And even the moment when he gets taken and David Cornsweet as Superman says that, and like, I have to go get him because he's out there and alone and scared. And as a dog owner, you're like, yeah, I would go get my dog too. I don't care if the world's burning. I want my dog to be safe. And that was a cool moment for me. And Crypto was always like a loyal dog. So I was really big fan of that. All right. So those are the things I really liked about the movie. I'm not going to harp about like every nitpick thing that I actually liked about the movie, but we're going to move on to the bads. Now, the bads of this movie is, first and foremost, they over explained everything. Sometimes I felt like maybe he had to cut some of the movie down, and in the senses where he had to cut things down, he felt he had to explain things so that way it would make up for the fact that he couldn't just show us. Like there was a situation of like the Nicholas Holt as Lex, and his minions explaining why things were being done, and I was like, couldn't you have just shown us that? Or like the Superman robots explaining things over, like it got to a point where like, all right, cool, I get it that we needed to know this information, but y'all couldn't have done this better than just sitting here just monologuing about it in some like out of place dialogue about like why these things are happening. And I really did not like that. Other things that I did, I really didn't like the Superman robots to begin with. I thought they were kind of stupid. I thought they really should not have been part of the movie. I think they should have done a Bradley Cooper and his Jor-El. They should have done like they did with Russell Crowe and just had him talk to Superman and do all this stuff. I felt like Superman robots were kind of a waste of space. Also too, I did not like the simple fact that, excuse me, it did kind of feel like a cartoon. Some things kind of came out of nowhere and just kind of felt forced, like they were just thrown in there for the sake of throwing in there. Like the kaiju was a cool thing. Also didn't like the simple fact that Superman got beat a bunch. And I know maybe he wanted to depower Superman a little bit so that way he's not unbeatable. But like, damn, man, I was like, I feel like Superman could win some things. He didn't truly beat the kaiju. He lost there. He lost to Ultraman and the Engineer. They made this whole Hammer of Bravia thing, which was Ultraman. Why wasn't that Lex? That would have been a great way for them to do the power suit. No one's like, so that I other things that I didn't like about this movie is the simple fact that they reused a lot of stuff from previous things. It is obvious to me that James Gunn absolutely saw every Superman movie because everything got reused. The whole dumb girlfriend character Eve, which was it Richard Donner who did the first film? That was his idea. That's not even a comic thing. So he brought that over from the very first Superman. The Interview was brought over, even though I do like the way that they did it, but damn, he brought that over as well. Also to Luthor, as a like Lex Luthor needed to have his own land, and I know maybe that's a comic book thing, but like it was definitely in Superman 1. It was definitely in Superman Returns with Kevin Spacey. And I was like, dude, we're just gonna continue to do this thing. Lex Luthor Corp was a multi-billion-dollar company. This little small town or this little small country that didn't even have a military force, Luther could have definitely just bought this country and became king if that's what he truly wanted. I did like the aspect that Nicholas Hoult wanted to do brains versus brawn, even though in a sense he did brawn versus brawn because he made another Superman, and that's not really brains versus brawn. That's really just brawn versus brawn. But it was like that's Superman 4 with doing a clone. And yes, you can say, oh, it's Bizarro. Yeah, I guess in a core, or maybe it's Superboy. Yeah, I guess, but like it's also too Superman 4. Or Superman 3 when people don't like Superman. And it was like, or Man of Steel where people didn't like Superman. I'm like, dude, he just took every aspect of every Superman movie and then just kind of forced it into this particular movie. So some aspects didn't feel like his own. It felt like he was just kind of recycling things. Also, too, there was a bunch of unneeded characters. Hawk Girl was definitely unneeded. They could have done Guy Gardner and Mr. Terrific, and that would have been good enough for the Justice Game. They could have not done this Cat Grant character at the Daily Planet because I looked her up. There's no freaking Cat Grant. No, it's like it was a chick with big boobs that I guess James Gunn wanted. I was like, is anybody dating this chick? Is that why she's in this movie? Because she was pointless to this particular movie. I would almost say Jimmy Olsen if it wasn't for the whole Eve and him thing. He was almost kind of pointless. But also too, Perry White, like, dude, it's so much done better. Perry White was done so much better in Man of Steel. This one, he was like a caricature. It was like, oh, every time I talk, I'm gonna pull a cigar out of my mouth, and I was like, I didn't like that aspect of the movie. But I didn't hate the movie. Some things I didn't like, but then some things I did like, and some things I didn't like, but then some things I did like. So for me, the movie overall, because that's where I'm going to start with the bad. So the movie overall was kind of like an okay start to this new DC cinematic universe. I don't think they need to reboot. I'm glad this movie has made a bunch of money in that they can just continue on and like we can course correct as we go on. I don't need to keep seeing them start over and reboot franchises. I do feel like in this particular universe, it does fill out a place as far as all the other characters that they're going to add in. How are you going to add Batman to this particular universe? It doesn't really make sense to me. I don't feel like Batman fits into this particular universe, not the way that they set this up. And you definitely couldn't do Robert Pattinson's Batman in this. He would have to go from dark and grumpy and gloomy to like Super Friends Batman in this. How are you going to fit? I guess you could fit maybe Flash and Wonder Woman, but like there's a lot of elements that just aren't going to work. Now, it does leave us, what are they going to do in the future? We never got a Man of Steel 2. I feel like this one definitely was setting up a sequel where Man of Steel didn't set up a sequel. This one definitely is setting up a sequel. We're definitely getting Bizarro because that Ultraman thing is definitely going to be Bizarro. Though I would have loved the fact that even though it was so foreshadowed and so obvious that it was going to be a clone of Superman, I would have loved it if it had been Henry Cavill under that face mask. And I was like, that'd be a great way, especially when he said I made an imperfect version of Superman, and just say like, hey, my Superman's better than Zack Snyder's Superman. And that would have been a great way to kind of close the loop with Henry Cavill, and I'd have been happy with that. I would have been happy with that, but that's not what they did. But either way, they're going to do that. We're definitely going to get more of the Justice Gang. I hope is going to transition into the Justice League at some point because we did get the Hall of Justice. I'm trying to think of anything else I can think about this particular movie. I think this is where we're going to stop on this particular review. Did I like it? This was a good C movie. It was an average movie. It was better than probably what a lot of people thought it was going to be, but not as great as I wanted it to be. I guess that's the best way I could say it. But it didn't suck, but it wasn't great. That's the best way I can say that one. Can't wait to see what they do with the rest of this particular universe. I really want to see what they do with Wonder Woman. I really want to see what they do with the Flash. And, are we going to stick with Guy Gardner for our Justice League going forward? I know they have a Lanterns TV show that's coming up, but, I'd prefer to have Jon Stewart over in the Justice League, but we'll see how they do that. If this is the first time you're on the channel, please put in the comments below what you guys thought about this movie. I'd love to hear what you guys thought about this movie and not just me ragging on it. I did enjoy some things and some things I didn't enjoy. Please tell me what you guys thought in the comments below. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe as well as click the notification button so that way you're aware of all the other videos that we drop on the channel. I am going to do some more, and we all have a bunch of other things that we show up on this channel. So with that being said, you guys take care.
Guys, you're still with us? Great. I know it's the end of the year, and I know you guys are in the holiday spirit, the spirit of giving, right? So we're asking you to give us money. So if you look down below, you'll see where it says patreon.com/thegoods. Right there is if you have an excess amount of cash laying around. If you have not bought enough Christmas presents and you're wondering, who else can I bring joy to this year? Us. That's who you can bring joy to. Have you ever looked at us and you're like, man, they should get a better camera? You're right, because we don't have enough money to. You can help us do that. Patreon.com/thegoods. Help us out. We'd appreciate it. And you can be a part of the goods yourself.